Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the now recovering crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion, we only have two major headlines. First of which will be an overall look at the market with XRP outperforming other majors for the last 24 hours at least. Also, the rest of the market doing a bit of recovery. Also want to take a look at the stock market, a couple markets on poly market to just get a sense of where we are. Is probably gonna fuel a discussion around cycle tops as well. And then the second piece of news is to do with Trump Media announcing a $20 million loss for Q2. Bit of a share sell-off going on there as well, 3.8% down, but also teasing a utility token in the Truth ecosphere. And on top of that, we still have the fact that the company is accumulating or wanting to accumulate Bitcoin to a very, very high extent in the billions. Also got the latest on price action in crypto and NFTs, and definitely a discussion around where this cycle is headed at the moment. Today, I got Brad with me in the co-host seat. We are almost ready to get into it. Just a quick reminder before we actually start that nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is extremely risky. We do not know anything for sure, so please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Brad, how are you doing?
Yo, I am a literal piece of bread today because, well, I have shitty connection. So we're trying to be careful with the video content. But I am still on my journey. I am in a small box in Italy. My legs are now 3 more sessions into some tattoos. So I'm fueled with basically just some pizza and air conditioning. And I will be for the foreseeable future, next like 5 days, and then back home to regular life.
How many more sessions are planned in those 5 days?
None. I'm just healing. That's why I spanned out the
You're healing.
flight just so I could just like, yeah, I'm literally like my legs are covered. So I'm just like laying around naked with my legs out open to like try to get better over the next 5 days so I can fly home and not be miserable.
So this is probably the actual reason why you had to turn off your camera.
I'm gonna post a video of it. So you know those glasses that BCheck got us, right? So BCheck got us some of those Meta Ray-Ban glasses just for fun. So I wore them during one of my sessions just so people can see what it's like to like be on the table while you're getting a bodysuit. So I have that. Probably gonna chop it up and post it sometime this week.
Nice. Yeah, I've been playing around quite a bit with the Meta glasses. So basically, for those not familiar with them, wearables by Meta that are made in partnership with Ray-Ban. Ray-Ban being under the umbrella of EssilorLuxottica, biggest, I think it is the biggest, has to be the biggest glasses and sunglasses manufacturer in the world, with so many brands like Ray-Ban, Oakley under that umbrella. And these Meta Ray-Bans basically have a couple of pretty nifty features. They have 2 cameras on them. You can take pictures, you can take videos. What they also have is a set of microphones and speakers, and the speakers are positioned above your ears, which is pretty cool because it basically allows you to walk around and listen to music, listen to podcasts, while obviously hearing everything that's going on around you as well. And I am very well aware that you can achieve the same effect with the transparency mode on AirPods, on other headphones. But the cool thing really is that you don't have anything in your ears, and it feels like still a bit magic, I would argue, to hear the music coming out of the glasses, basically almost like coming out of nowhere, but still perfectly being able to sense what's going on in your environment. And what they also released as part of those glasses, as part of an update a couple months ago or so, is an AI-related feature, which I have been enjoying, especially in Copenhagen. You can basically look at things. You can look at a chart at another site and ask Meta, hey, what am I looking at? And it's going to tell you exactly everything you need to know on that site. You can ask it to help you navigate to some other places physically. I think, Brett, you looked at a protein moves and you asked like how many calories does this thing have, and it was pretty accurate with that estimate as well. So it's a pretty interesting tech gadget, and they could see a future, because the only thing it's lacking is you don't have a screen, like you don't have mixed reality. But if these things, and they will, in my opinion, get some sort of head-up display, mixed reality integration in the future, I could see myself wearing these very often, and replacing at least partially my phone usage. Brett, how have you been playing around with them?
100%. Yeah, the AR stuff is coming without a doubt. Right? It's just like the next logical thing for them to do. But I think what you're saying with the removal of the buds from your ears is actually like it's more of a level up than I had initially thought. And I think maybe it's just because the sound is so good. Because like I listen to podcasts like every time I leave the house, I have something in my ears, and I think I am probably doing some long-term damage that I don't even recognize because I'm wearing so much shit directly in my ears. And again, that the pass-through thing, like you said. So yeah, I've been playing around just like you're going to see more content coming out of the Mega account. While I was in Copenhagen, I videotaped a lot of stuff, did some first person point of view shit. So you guys will see stuff on the timeline to get an idea of what it feels like. It's pretty cool. And like we would dual shoot. So like I would have my glasses so you could see first person, and then someone would be behind me. So you can see like a snap back and forth of me interviewing versus like what it looks like to everyone around us. It's kind of fun.
That is sick. That I'm quite excited for. Also see Funky with his hand up. Very curious to hear from you on our little meta discussion.
Are these only sunglasses, or
No.
are they? Oh wow! So I can get like my regular glasses with these.
You can get prescription glasses as well. You can get regular prescription glasses, sunglasses, and then they have, I don't know like what the technical term is, those transition lenses, which if you're outside turn into sunglasses, and if you're inside they turn into regular glasses basically.
Oh, yeah, I've always wore Ray-Bans, so this would be awesome if I can get those.
The only thing is, I would say they're a bit bigger than a regular Ray-Ban, a bit thicker because they have to fit the batteries somewhere. But I didn't find it, and I have a very sensitive head when it comes to wearing like heavier headphones, like I don't know, for example, my AirPods Max or stuff. I didn't find it exhausting to wear these. So, and they're not too expensive. They're like what, $400, $450, something like that. So it's not a ridiculous purchase. But I would say enough about sunglasses, enough about wearables. I could talk about those things for maybe the next hour or so, but you're here for something else, and that is the modern market. That is the price action, which I will bring up on screen now for those watching us on video. There we go. As usual, starting with the majors first. We have Bitcoin flat over the last 24 hours, back to 114.3K. Used to be way lower than that. We've seen a bit of recovery. ETH is painting a similar chart. It's up 1.5% over the last 24 hours, back to 3.5K or $3,560 to be more precise. Also went under 3.3K for a while. We have Ripple now back under $3, but still up 3.4% over the last 24 hours at 2.98. BNB essentially flat as well, $756. Solana flat at 162. And then we have, and that was also pointed out by Swizzy in the YouTube comments, the actual outperformer, that is Stellar. Stellar is up 6.5% to 40 cents over the last, or 41 cents actually over the last 24 hours. Also checking in, and has flipped Hyperliquid, by the way, has flipped Hyperliquid as a result of that. We have Hyperliquid, speaking of which, down 4% over the last 24 hours to $37.5, and Sui down 1.5%.
Did you see the Hype D farming thing for Hyperliquid, the treasury company?
No.
It was someone from Blockworks. Oh no, it was Omar from Dragonfly. He went and dug through their earnings report, and they were basically talking about farming Hyperliquid protocols in like a professional setting. So they're like, oh yeah, we're doing, X% month over month, and these are our forecasts for the future, and blah 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 blah. And then based on Kinetic specifically in the Hyperliquid ecosystem, they're like, because we're partnering with Kinetic, now we can start farming points for our holders. And so it was just interesting to see like a super formal TradFi wrapper around basically farmers. Like they're doing the same shit, and it's a value approval thing for the stock. Well, the DAT. And I think it's always like up 6% on the day after seeing that.
Nice. Is Hype D the one you bought a couple shares of?
It is. I'm absolutely wrecked on it because I bought it like 12 and it's at like 8. So like the volatility is definitely there. But yeah, I'm still keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, same with my SBET stocks. I am down a ton on them, and I'm holding them, and I'm telling myself the same story, Brad, because they had the announcement they will stake ETH, they will restake ETH, they'll find other ways to earn yield on ETH to increase their ETH holdings as a result of farming yield and increase ETH per share. And I'm still holding. Don't want to realize the losses on that. I don't know if this is a smart thing or not, but this is where I'm at with it.
Speaking of realizing losses, I didn't want to realize the losses on that Kaido long. I then got positive for all of about 6 hours. And then, as you guys have been able to tell, like I haven't been on the timeline in the last like week, so I've been a little distracted. I got liquidated in that time. So goodbye to that, my first perps position. I think it's a rite of passage. So now I feel like an actual trader.
I had a similar story on the weekend. So my weekend on that note started good with shorting ETH, and I did quite well on that. But then it did recover a bit. I closed my short, and I started flip flopping around with positions around longs and shorts because I had no idea what's going on instead of just keeping the short open. And I basically ended up burning like half, 2/3 of the profits I initially had made with the short by just being quite erratic with that. I don't know. I feel like there's still to me something weird about being short on an asset that I'm bullish on and that I hold in significantly larger quantity in spot. Like I didn't have an issue to short something I'm not holding, but it feels so weird in my brain that I'm shorting, I don't know, ETH with 50K just to make up some numbers, but I'm holding 100K in ETH as a long-term hold. And this makes me a horrible executor on that. So I basically told myself that I will refrain from shorting assets that I also hold in my spot bags for a longer time. But I've also seen Funky raising his hand on this topic. So quite curious to hear your experiences or thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I actually remember I talked about how I got liquidated on my ETH with the day Jerome had his little thing and it wicked down like $9 below my stop loss. I actually closed my Bitcoin long, and now I feel stupid for doing it because that was the other one I had been playing with. Again, not some massive long. It was not like a big amount of money or anything like that, but just learning how to play perps so I could accumulate more BTC ultimately. And I opened it at like 100K on the last bounce, but the fees were starting to add up. And of course, I never took profits at 120 and the market was starting to come down. I see Arthur Hayes like, oh, we're going to retest 100. So I closed it at 112, which was basically the bottom from where it like bounced. And I mean, still was in the green, but now I'm like, man, I should just let it ride. So I just feel foolish for shutting it down.
Yeah, no, I feel you. And I'm thinking that like sometimes when you have this feeling where the market is going and you know that the market's going to crash over the weekend, you kind of want to profit from that and not ignore it. But it's still a skill that I don't have. So I'm happy to keep experimenting with maybe other tokens for shorts that I don't own in small position size because I feel like it's a valuable skill to learn to be able to trade perps as well. With that being said, I also want to take a look, as per usual, at the meme price action. Get that up on screen as well. What do we have here? Dogecoin up 1%, SHIB flat, Pepe down 1%, Pengu up 2% to 3.5 cents, Bonk up 3%, Trump is flat, Loki up 2.5%. Basically, most things, useless coin up 3%, appear to be either flat or up a couple of percent over the last 24 hours. Still surprised to see Aura sticking around. That's quite ridiculous. Up 6%, 16 cents. So this thing is still at about 160 mil market cap. But apart from that, I would argue that at least in the meme set of things, there's nothing notable to touch on. So let me get into the main headlines. We said it at the top of the show. XRP is outperforming majors. Was up 5% as of the time when the snapshot was written. Now it's up 3%. Rest of the market also seemed to have found a bottom at least over the weekend. And then the second piece of headline, which Brad will cover for us, is Trump Media announcing a $20 million loss in Q2, share sell off of 3.8%, but also teasing a utility token in the Truth ecosphere. terms of some notable price action, didn't mention ENA being up 12% to 9.3 bill as USD ETVL passes $9 billion. Spark, also stablecoin protocol, up 30% to $1.2 billion. I think that check had a post on that current barbell is with stablecoins and related protocols, and it's a nice comfy hold for him. So that is definitely good for him. Touching on the NFT side of things, similar picture, I would argue, to the memes. We have Pudgies being up 0.7%, 40.2 ETH floor, Bored Apes up 1%, 11.77 ETH floor, Duels up 1%, 1 ETH floor. Big outperformer, Clonex, sounds yet again absurd to say it, up 18% to 0.38 ETH, up 40% over the week. So if I scroll through the top NFTs on Blur, Clonex is the outperformer on a daily basis. Clonex is the outperformer on a weekly basis, while the rest of the NFTs like Pudgies being down 13% over the last week, Apes being down 6.5%, Miladies being down 20%. The only other collection that has both green on the daily and weekly chart are that goes back to Kato once more. The Kaito Genesis NFTs, 0.97 ETH floor, up 35% on the day, up 10.5% over the week. Brett, do you know what is going on with them? Is there a reason for this price action? Do you have any clue?
That's interesting, given my recent liquidation. I think, to be honest, I've just seen a lot more activity coming out of the Kaito team. I think they kind of feel the erosion of the InfoFi sector, or at least the pressure. So I haven't seen any specific news. I did get a DM from the team that just extended Kaito permissions or access to a few people if you have a leaderboard. So people on our team, even though we have a leaderboard, we're paying a lot of money for it, we only had one person that had a Kaito membership, and that might have been paid, but now they're extending access to people who have a leaderboard to the actual platform. So now I get to experience it a little bit more fully. But I haven't seen any explicit announcements. No. So it might just be some crime accumulation if someone knows an announcement is coming.
Gotcha. Because on the token side of things, there is no positive movement to report that would match this. Kaito token is down 17% over the last week and basically down 1.2% over the last 24 hours. So this is not tracking the NFT price performance. Getting next into the Web3 Roundup to get you the rest of the news from around the space. I have some few interesting bits and bobs there. Eric Trump posting by the dips, sharing the BTC and ETH tickers. It did work out over the weekend. Public company Hyperion shares kinetic farming strategy. This is what you had mentioned previously. Ethena hitting $9 billion TVL with USDE up 23% on the week, up 75% on the month. Wow. Metaplanet, that Japanese company, buying another 463 BTC for $53 million. Tron founder Justin Sun returning from the 14th human spaceflight with Blue Origin. In terms of some more news, EAT, the online casino, announcing the Build for Big Moments campaign starting today with 16 selected streamers battling over the next 4 weeks with $40,000 on the line. And Ventures announcing they're bringing private markets public. Anyone can trade startups before the IPO. Last news, Coinbase UK detailing failing financial system banned in the UK. Brett, anything from the roundup that is standing out to you where you want to comment more on?
No, nothing in particular. It's hard for me to keep up with the entire ecosystem just because I've been so removed doing this stuff locally. What is your sense of just the general timeline, energy? Where is attention going? I'm seeing a lot of bickering between all of the the chains still. I see Ethereum dunking on Solana, dunking on whoever else, Hyperliquid, but I saw Hyperliquid's downtime thing was also caused some scares over there. What's your trend of what the conversation topic is right now?
I feel like a lot of the conversation is revolving around this question, whether the top is in or not. That is one part of that. I feel like a lot of talking still going on around altcoin season. I had this post up last week asking, I don't think it's a cycle top, just for the record, but asking if it were the cycle top, would you be happy? Would you be okay at this point in time? And out of all the people who commented and responded under that, like only 4 said that yeah, they would be okay with that. So I feel like that is definitely one point of discussion. Another point, and that kind of is tying back into the InfoFi thing, is generally InfoFi discussion is kind of heating up again. And then I'm seeing more and more talks of people calling for or speculating on a potential second Kaito airdrop, or wishing for that. And on the chain side of things, the L2 wars, or chain versus chain thing, that's definitely something that you are more in touch with, Brett. Is there like anything specific about this bickering that stood out to you, or just the usual discussion that we're seeing all the time?
No, it's just like Ethereum ecosystem feeling strong because price was going up. So like a lot of those people were getting a really they had a lot of gumption in their conversations, just trying to dunk on Solana people, totally whatever. Now there's a lot of stuff around privacy, and with the Roman Storm thing coming back around, like his actual case, people are talking about privacy, money laundering, all that shit. Actually, as a side note of that, did you guys see that that Dragonfly got like called out in court for investing in Tornado Cash back in the day, back in 2017 or whenever originally launched?
What's the news there?
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly a like Dragonfly had done research into Tornado Cash back in the day. They were one of the initial investors with Roman Storm. They had done their DD, had their counsel look over it and see that it was like actually compliant at the time, just like there was nothing scary about it. But because of the ongoing case against Roman Storm, which again, Tornado Cash is the I don't want to say laundering, it's a washing service, right, or mixing service on side of Ethereum mainnet to preserve privacy for individuals who want to do it and send tokens elsewhere. And what happened was, during this case where they're investigating Roman Storm, who was the creator, and saying he's facilitating money laundering, that they, in the actual like the case out loud in court, they just say like, oh, and we're also going to look to go after Dragonfly, which is like the investors, and it's also illegal to do that. Like you can't just say like whenever there's an open case like that they're looking to do that stuff. So Dragonfly over the weekend had to basically defend itself, say this stuff was like, obviously that's like the inappropriate way to do that, and also had no merit to it. And then first thing on Monday, they rescinded that, and now like just like cleared it up. There is no pursuit after Dragonfly. Things are good, but it was a sketchy moment for a time there.
Yeah, I can imagine. And just to double down on this statement, they said no plans to prosecute crypto investment from Dragonfly or its principals for their early investment in Tornado Cash, is what they, as you said, stated last Monday then. But has to be a weird situation if this is where you find out that there's potential legal action being considered against you
from the government.
Yeah, from the government,
Yeah, like,
a complete separate trial to that.
Yeah, the big conversation is mostly just around this growing erosion of the power disparity between like the government and like people, right? Like just like that thing had no merit to it. The government, obviously, like everyone in this audience knows, over the last ever since crypto has existed, that we've basically had stuff come down on us unilaterally that had no merit to it, or was like disjointed from the facts, removed from the facts. And this was just another example of that. Like that someone from the government can literally just say something, and then it does like massive reputational damage to Dragonfly. It's obviously scary, and if they wanted to pursue that, like it's costly, it's reputationally damaging. It's like it's a bunch of shit just because like they either fail to understand the case or fail to follow due process, but because the entity is so strong, they just have this outsized power. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it definitely is, and thank you for bringing it up, because I would have missed it completely otherwise. We got 30 minutes left in the show. We're halfway through, so I want to get into the first headline and talk about the markets, talk about what's going on, give a bit of a broader picture to just catch us all up to the current state of everything. One of the first things I want to point out is the Fed decision in September market, or bet on Poly market, $12 million in volume, which had a very, very significant change. I'm sharing this on screen. So we basically have seen something very interesting. We had the, that's here, we had the FOMC meeting last Wednesday. And basically before the meeting, it looked like 50-50 chance whether we're going to see a rate cut in September or not. After the meeting, the chance that there's not going to be any rate cut in September did spike up all the way to 63%, and with only 35%, with only a bit more than a third believing that there's going to be a rate cut in September. And now with some more labor data coming out, this has flipped yet again, but quite massively. Now with 71% of the market thinking there's going to be a 25 bips decrease in September, 8% of the market thinking, which is also significant because this used to be like more at 2% over the last week, that there's going to be a 50 bips, 0.5% decrease in rates in September. So a total of 80% now thinking we will see a rate cut, and only or 20% seeing no change in September. Staying on the topic of poly market, want to have a look at what price will Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Solana hit in August bets and markets, just to get a sense of how bullish, bearish we are on that. Starting with ETH first, $1 million of volume in that bet. And I would say it's it's not as bad, let's put it like that. So we have 53% thinking we'll see 3.2K in August, but we also on the bullish side of things have 70% thinking we'll see 3.8K, 60% thinking we'll see 3.9, and still 47, almost half of the market, of the bettors thinking that ETH could see 4K in August. Looking at the same picture for Solana, I'm not going to read all those numbers again, but it's a similar picture with the strongest accumulation thinking that Solana will see 155, 79%. And on the positive side, we have 48% thinking we could go as high as $185. Bitcoin, 62% think we're going to see 120K again, 82% think we're going to see 117K. And still a third of the market, or a bit more than that actually, 36% are thinking we could see 125K. So what I can at least extrapolate from that is that the market is thinking we'll see a lot of volatility. It would make sense if you look at the VIX, the volatility index, which is an index that you can also trade for stocks specifically, which has been up 30-ish% or so over the last week. So definitely a market that is preparing for some volatility. Moving on to, where is it? To the stock side of things. This I found quite interesting. So I'm sharing the pre-markets on screen. We have the Dow futures being up 0.5%. Same for the S&P 500 futures in the pre-market. And same for the NASDAQ, where even more green for that, being up 0.7%. However, I also have I also kept track of this over the weekend, and on the weekend it looked completely different. On the weekend, the pre-market was horribly red, with the Dow Jones, the S&P 500 futures, and the NASDAQ being anywhere between 1.8 and 2% in the red. So expecting quite a negative marketing opening today, but has flipped somehow over Sunday and Monday to now a way more positive outlook, which I just found quite surprising, to be honest. So I'm definitely curious to see what the stock market will do in 2 hours from now when it opens. Also taking a look at this chart, which I've been sharing more and more over the last weeks or so. This is the stock price performance in the S&P 500 over the last week. It's basically Amazon, Apple down 5-7%, Tesla down 4%. But then we have Meta, who reported fantastic earnings, was up 11% at some point, still up 5%. We have Microsoft being up 2%, Nvidia basically being flat. So result of those moves, maybe also more in the tech side of things, is that a lot of those companies, and we touched on that last Friday, have reported the Q2 earnings, all of which were very, very positive. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is, because you also mentioned the treasury company spread, is some selected stocks, especially Sharplink. Sharplink has had a pretty rough week, down 22%, still up 80% over the month, is now at $17 is where it closed. On Friday is up 5% to $18 on the pre-market. And I feel like this is a similar picture for most of the tradable treasury companies, which obviously experience more volatility than the actual underlying. Same with Let's Get Up, Bitmain Immersion, down 8% on Friday, now up 2% on the pre-market. So still, it seems like these companies are playing out like a leveraged bet on the underlying asset. Brett, I know you're not the biggest of day traders, but on this treasury company side of things, we spoke about basically Bitmain versus Sharplink. You spoke about your hype D position. Is anything changing in your treasury strategy of you and treasury companies? Are you happy to hold your hype D backs for now? How are you looking at the treasury companies for the time being?
I'm holding on to it, but like I'm increasingly, like, everyone I hear that talks about it that comes from the outside says basically retail is going to get fleeced by this. Only the people that have access to the safes and or the pipes are going to be the ones that make money on it. So, and these are like larger traders. I don't know if they're just risk averse or if they just want to avoid it directly. Like, so for me, I have my exposure. I plan on keeping that just because like I did that. I wanted to do it. I want to see it through just so it forces me to watch it and kind of understand it. But I'm not trying to increase my exposure for sure. Just because, like, yeah, there's a lot of volatility. Everyone is anticipating that these things are going to blow up. It's just a matter of when, and it's like the upside is higher than just holding the underlying asset is the hope. So, but it depends on a lot of execution. So that's my general position. I have a position. I will keep my position. I'm probably not going to extend it just because I don't want to be over allocated to them, knowing that it's something that needs a lot more attention than most of my investments, which are just like simple spot that I think will go up into the right. Yeah, that's my general position on it these days.
And in terms of your spot backs, I think you mentioned, I don't know, was it 2 weeks ago or so that you ended up buying more ETH? Did you add to that? Did you sell some? Are you holding all of that as well? So is your spot strategy still up and to the right, or are you willing to buy a bit more here? Did you accumulate more the weekend? How are you thinking about that side of the portfolio?
No, yeah, most of it's still just like in its normal position. I haven't added, I haven't adjusted. I've been doing in real life stuff for the most part. So for that, I'm just watching, and I do want to try to get my hands on a new IPO that comes up. Like I missed Figma. I wish I would have like paid attention to that or knew it was coming. I want to be ready for some IPOs in the crypto sphere because I do think there's continued froth there, and I think it might be an easy trade just to like get my beak wet. But other than that, I haven't readjusted anything on a considerable amount.
Yeah, Figma actually, I missed as well. I missed. I had it on my radar, but at the time that I could buy it was just too high for me. I also know a lot of people, Cyrus I think included, registered for that on Robinhood, and they got allocated like 1 share or so. Just bring up this chart, and then I'm going to go to Oxy as well, who has his hand up. Figma up 36% on the week, up to $122. Another 5.6% on Friday. It's down a bit on the pre-market, but that was definitely a very, very nice pump to IPO with. And that's also something I kept a good amount of liquidity for the IPOs of the more crypto native companies, which we'll still expect to see this fall. Very curious to go to you, Oxy, and how you want to come in.
Yeah, thank you. So this is mostly coming from a place of ignorance, probably, but I know everyone's talking about the treasury companies blowing up. Obviously, the underlying thought there is that they're leveraging tons of debt. They get overexposed to crypto. The prices go down. They get liquidated. Kind of a deal. From what I've understood from a lot of them, it's a lot of equity and preferred shares, which you could equate to debt, I guess. And I think I've asked a similar question before, but like, what's like them blowing up really mean? Because I guess if I'm thinking about like a Hyperliquid or like an Ethereum one specifically that have real ways to generate return and APY that quite honestly rivals like, most companies' return on investment for, just pretty much anything. Well, I guess like outside of just like tokens going to zero, like ETH going to zero or what have you, what's really going to be the leading catalyst there outside of everyone's just like, okay, this isn't enough return, or and that they sell the stock and it just goes to zero. What's I guess what's everyone's main thought or fear there?
You want to hear this? This is a fun one. So I was listening to a podcast yesterday. Here's the theory, right? So okay, like it's very similar to the Grayscale situation, where at some point, like the actual stock for Grayscale was trading below the assets that it held on chain, which was Ethereum and Bitcoin and whatever else, right? So the thing here, or like what blowing up is these treasury companies, they sate the market, so the market no longer has appetite for the underlying assets, and the stock starts trading at a discount to the actual underlying that they hold. Solely because there's no appetite there, and the treasury company then no longer has the ability to issue more shares to buy more stuff. So like they're not, like you're mentioning things that are generating some revenue, so that they actually can try to drive some of that back to it to actually like necessitate further buying. But if it gets in this like downward spiral where it has, the only thing it can do is sell the assets to accumulate money, then you get this situation where Saylor, being like the magician of the world, he is like the only one in the position to be able to issue to issue stock to acquire more underlying assets, and he can buy all of these smaller treasury companies at a discount, basically acquire them, know that there's free money on the table, he's buying $1 for 90 cents, and then just liquidate all of the assets to buy more Bitcoin. And like he can then like start subsuming all of these other treasury companies that are in this position where like the market appetite for the underlying asset goes below the actual value of the underlying. So, I mean, that's like a long-term play out thing, but I thought that was like a kind of a fun long-term horizon of how he, in this very unique position, because it is Bitcoin, can eventually just kind of take over the market, and the long tail assets are probably going to be the first to go.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. And I actually think that at some point you almost would have to do something like that if you have such a big share in Bitcoin, and you would see some smaller treasury companies coming under pressure, and you have the possibility or the funds to buy them out, get your discounted BTC, and also save the market from a potential cascade panic fear. So there's definitely an incentive to do that. The thing that I'm still like keeping track of, and then I'm going to come back to you, Oxy, is this side, the strategic ETH reserve, also the equivalent for BTC as well, just to get a sense of how much money is in strategic ETH reserve companies versus what are the total ETF holdings. And right now you're seeing 9.7 bill in the strategic ETH reserve, which is 2.27% of the supply, and 20 bill seeing in the ETH ETFs, that is 4.8% of the supply. And I said on the show that there's this point, probably start to worry more is when the amount in the strategic and the treasury companies goes above the amount in the ETFs, and we'll see, I don't know, like 6, 7, maybe 8% of the supply bundled up in a ton of companies who are holding ETH for whatever reason. That would be a point when I would start to get worried, especially as that's a particular thing for ETH, because with Bitcoin you have Saylor with such an absurd amount of BTC compared to the other companies. Not the thing that Brett just described, the potential of buying out these companies is real to me. And plus, then the only worry becomes if MicroStrategy would fail. But with ETH, where you have like a couple of players who are of similar size, let's bring up this table again. You have Bitminer with 2.2 bill, Sharplink with 1.56 bill, and the Ether Machine with 1.2 bill, all of which are bigger holders in the Ethereum Foundation. If this trend continues and you have like 3, maybe 4 players with a couple $1 billion worth of ETH, this is where I would be more concerned. But Oxy, coming back to you for your thoughts. You are on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's really helpful, really interesting perspective. Yeah, no, I think that makes complete sense. I do want to come in just briefly on the IPO of crypto specific companies.
Mhm.
And it was so frustrating to me that I missed Circle, because we're in a very unique situation here where we actually understand kind of like what that means and what's going on with some like the tech behind something like a Circle, or future IPOs. And I guess just to kind of echo what you guys are saying is like, I don't want to miss out on that. And I'm doing the same thing where I want to allocate funds aside and be like, okay, when I understand, I feel like there's like a mismatch between understanding and the information that the general public have over something, that I'm going to want to capitalize on that. So I'm doing the same thing. And I think there's some really good opportunities there.
Yeah, I said it. This was one of my biggest change of hearts have had this year, maybe the last couple of years when it comes to investing. And my position was, I have so much crypto exposure. I don't want to have exposure to crypto adjacent stocks, because it's just putting more eggs in the same basket, maybe with a different color, but it's still the same basket. But then exactly what you said, Oxy, I flipped my mind to being like, if there's any part of the stock market where I would have an edge, where I would have more knowledge, more expertise than the typical investor, it is exactly to do with crypto. And I know I like AI, I like robotics, but I don't have a fucking clue about robotics. Like, I know the companies, I know what they're working, but I definitely don't have the same amount of like in-depth knowledge and expertise knowledge than I have with crypto, and then also crypto adjacent stocks, that would be amiss to not take a position in those, where I think that they could be really, really interesting. But then also changing the mindset that I basically count that to the overall crypto exposure. And if anything, I fuel stable coins into fiat and then into my brokerage account, and use that to buy those stocks, and don't change the overall exposure to crypto in my total portfolio, rather than selling, I don't know, my S&P 500s or MSCI World ETFs to get an even higher relative exposure to crypto, whether it is directly in tokens in a Web3 native way, or with crypto adjacent stocks. Brett, just quickly checking in with you if you wanted to come back in on that. If not, I will quickly go to some posts on the timeline when it comes to the cycle top, and then we will have to move into the last piece of news.
Yeah, mostly just that I agree with you, and I had the same journey. It sounds like a little before you, but the same thing. We're just like, I remember diving into, remember 3D printing when it got hot back in, I was like 2020, 2019. I remember throwing a shitload at like, there's a 3-letter ticker, like a three of the same thing. I forget which one it was. Got nuked. Like it fucking sucked. Just because like I realized like those are the people that would be exit liquidity for us, like in the crypto sphere. And I'm totally fine being allocated to the thing that I know most, because that's where my conviction is. And that's like 97% of trading is like, you have to have conviction in something to be able to deal with the market swings. And if you don't understand it, it's basically it's borrowed conviction. And that's never going to work out. So it's basically just like, do the crypto stuff because I'll feel convicted in that. I mean, I have an edge, a perceived edge. And then like hard up assets. So I've never actually been traditionally like a big gold bug guy, but just again, listening to a lot of the macro stuff. Forward Guidance is another great podcast, and just like thinking about where all of this stuff is going. I am probably going to be increasing my exposure to gold and or Bitcoin, probably in equal weights, just because like if you see where all this stuff is going. Whether or not I agree with like the underlying technicals of Bitcoin, I think it's captured the narrative in a way that it will continue to ride in the same way that gold was, and I want to make sure I have exposure to that.
Yeah, that's super interesting. When you say gold, are you talking about physical gold, gold ETFs, on-chain gold? Like what form of gold is the appealing one to you?
For people who know me, they know I don't like physical shit. I want everything to be digital. So it'll be ETFs, it'll be on-chain assets, it'll be certificates. I'm not going to be lugging around gold bricks.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. And for people who know me, I also like my digital stuff, but I'm massively driven by tax incentives in my country. My country says if I hold gold for longer than a year, and that is physical gold, it's tax free. If I flip it then. So it has to be physical gold. It's obviously annoying because you have to store it somewhere outside of your house. You have to pay for a vault or for a gold vaulting company. There exist a couple of them in Switzerland as well, in Austria as well, in Germany. So my gold of choice is physical, but that is purely from a tax perspective. Otherwise, I would very much prefer to have on-chain gold, because I would like to put gold and BTC into an LP and farm some yield on that and use it in a productive way. But I'm doomed to save on taxes and keep it physically. With that being said, the one thing I quickly wanted to touch on before we move into the last headline is to do with cycle tops, just 2 posts and this aggregated indicator that I wanted to share. A bit sarcastic from Bo Security, saying last cycle you knew it was the top because all the city influencers told you it was the top and everyone took profits and was happy. Very similar reasoning by D-Farmer. Fear in the streets, negative funding, everyone either cautioning you this is the top or straight up yelling at you this is for sure the top. Yes, this is exactly also sarcasm. What cycle tops look like. I like that he had to explain in the comments, as I said, that this is sarcasm because people actually thought it was the top. And then I had this on screen before, and I know you liked it, Brad. The bull market peak indicators on CoinGlass, which is a list of 30 different indicators, and whether basically they already have hit, and according to that indicator have reached the cycle top. And currently this chart is saying hold 100%. Not a single of these indicators have hit so far, with the Bitcoin dominance one being actually the closest to hit with 94% on this like progression bar, progression scale. I'll keep my position that I say it is absolutely impossible to time the top. I'm still comfy in my spot backs, but I've also have been stabling up throughout the year, always taking profits. I'm just never going to try to perfectly time the top because I simply don't think this is possible to do. Funky, your hands up. Quick take from you, and then we'll move into the last headline.
Bitquant, or I think it's like BITQUA. He just keeps constantly reminding people and showing a logarithmic chart. The top is not in, the top is not in, the top is not in. And then the one I always go to is the pi cycle top indicator, and it's nowhere near touching. So yeah, let it rip.
Yeah, I know you like the pi cycle top indicator. Can you quickly, because I also keep forgetting how it works, quickly explain if you can what the pi cycle indicator or top indicator says or does?
Yeah, so basically it's 2 major indicators. The lower bound is the 111-day moving average. The upper bound is the 350-day moving average multiplied by 2. So those 2, when like, and it'll basically give you sort of like the current price. You know, I'm looking at it right now. It lags a little bit, by a good bit actually. The one I'm looking at is from late June. And so what you're looking for is when those 2 lines actually at least touch, or usually what happens is the bottom line, the 111-day moving average, will go over the 350 times 2. And that will indicate that we have hit the peak. If you go look at the chart, you see it in all the previous runs. And sometimes it happens a little bit later. So like in the 2017 run, it showed it after that really extreme, for those who remember the 2 cycles back, like that last month, we're just ripped from probably 12 to 18 or whatever it was. And then the previous one too, same thing, like it got to the high, it kind of chopped a little bit. And this is the first peak that happened like probably April or May of 21. Then bicycle type touched. And then, you know, we did have that sort of second high, but it was below where the moving averages had went. That has not gotten anywhere close at any point since, you know, the last bear market. So that's the one I look at a lot.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm currently having it up on screen and went through the chart as you were speaking. But Brett, with only 5 minutes left in the show, definitely want to spend those on the second piece of news, which is to do with Trump media. What do we need to know?
Oh no, I got something in my throat. It's like you calling me. Okay, this one's actually just more of an overview thing. So the headline itself is just that Trump media announced a $20 million loss in Q2. and the shares sold off 3.8%, while teasing utility for the utility token in the Truth ecosphere. Honestly, like it was just kind of like a health report on the Trump empire and their pivot towards cryptocurrency. And the things that were interesting to me is that, like, they reported this $20 million loss for Q2 of this year. They actually had a $60 million loss in the same quarter last year. And then they recorded despite that, they recorded a 5.5% increase in net sales year over year, but that was only $800,000 for the entire quarter, which means like this thing is generating basically $0 and losing roughly 16 to $20 million every quarter. So like, it's not a very profitable thing. With that said, as we mentioned, the Trump media positioning in the crypto sphere, they actually hold about 2/3 of the Trump media's total liquid assets is up to $2 billion. And that's Bitcoin and a subset of other things, but predominantly Bitcoin. So it's just to show that like the actual underlying business is not performing very well, but they're turning into a little bit of a digital asset company, treasury, with accumulating a bunch of Bitcoin. I don't know if there's anything else that was notable for you in those articles.
Yeah, I think I think it's a very interesting company to watch, especially with the Trump family being so involved in the whole crypto business. The other thing, what I also started to do more is to be on Truth Social, just to be able to follow Donald Trump posting there. It's interesting that this is happening in the same entity, right? The Bitcoin acquisition as well as the Truth Social business. But apart from that, I just thought it was noteworthy to point that out, but I don't have anything more to say on it. It's also not a company that I'm holding in my stock portfolio, but I do think it is important to keep track of what's happening in that entity.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of implications just because this is incentives, right? That we're an industry of incentives. The world is a world of incentives. This is all incentives, and it shows you the bag that is being held by Trump and the Trump family, right? Like they have $2 billion of Bitcoin. They're obviously, it would behoove them to create favorable environments so that this thing can do well because they have a giant fucking bag of it. Like that's the short of it, right? So it is good for us to remember that the president of the United States, even though they in the article covered that, hey, like he gave all of his assets and the stocks to his son, who's technically running the company. So there's actually no conflict of interest because it's not actually the president. It's two steps removed from the president, which is, like, as we all know, ridiculous, but doesn't matter. Like the thing is, him and his family have a shit ton of these coins, and they're going to want these coins to go up. I think combining that with the recent move to try to get was it the Fed chair out? Like they're just doing whatever they can to be able to operate in a short-term mindset, and I think that is good for us if we are all holding these coins.
Yeah, fantastic. I have nothing to add on that specifically, other than this piece of news that is basically just confirming what you said, that now also the CFTC is starting their crypto sprint with the SEC following the White House plans, and that it is to do with some of the recommendations we've seen as part of the Project Crypto, but also the guidelines and recommendations that the White House published being integrated. And there's 18 of which the President's Working Group made specifically for the CFTC, which they are now working on integrating. And with that being said, that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much, Brett, for co-hosting with me. Thank you to Funky and Oxy for stepping up and contributing. Thank you to everyone in the audience for being with us today. We will, as per usual, upload the episode to YouTube, to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we will also be back as usual tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, live on X, live on YouTube. Have a great day and see you tomorrow.